We're going to be ending my IndieSelectE3 Showcase on a positive note with the 2D platformer Super Rad Raygun. The game follows a robot affectionately referred to as Rad, who was working for the US government during the Cold War. No, I'm not kidding. The game has you jumping and shooting through many different fictionalized versions of real-world locations, such as Washington, D.C., Mount St. Helens, and Nicaragua, with the desired goal of ending the Cold War as soon as possible. Any fans of old-school platformers will instantly see the game's similarities to classic Mega Man, and it's not a bad comparison to make. I'm sure that other eagle-eyed fans have noticed that Super Rad Raygun has more video game influences than just the blue bomber. The initial green and black palette and the shape of our hero are a dead giveaway that the title is attempting to be a nostalgic throwback to all things early Nintendo, and for the most part it worked for me. This is another case of what you see is what you get in terms of the basic gameplay, but the way the game handles its upgrades in tandem with its level design are what had me the most interested. You gain currency throughout the game that you can use to expand different stats and give you different abilities. To actually increase these stats, however, you must find batteries scattered throughout each of the levels. These batteries are not one-time use. Just like batteries in real life, you could switch the slots they're put into, allowing you to change stats on the fly for any situation. This is most frequently useful in entering dark and underwater locations where you'll need to power up your backlight or protective case stats respectively, allowing for safer traversal. The game also has an energy meter similar to the one I discussed in Dimension Drive. Here you have to strike a balance between damage output and energy consumption based upon the placement of the batteries. While the run and gun action is decent in its own right, I found the majority of my fun with the game came from trying to find all the batteries hidden throughout the stages. While they do act as upgrades for Rad, I began seeking them out purely for the joy of finding them. What started as a basic playthrough to get enough information for this review turned into a 100% run, where I maxed out the character before finally getting to the last boss. The fact that I was able to find all the batteries without ever having to resort to a guide is a testament to how well planned the levels were overall. Unfortunately, these upgrades aren't always good for the game's overall balance. I should warn fans of the genre that Super Rad Raygun is made significantly easier because of them. This is especially true of the game's boss battles, which I was almost always able to beat on my first attempt, with only 2 exceptions. While I was expecting a decent Mega Man clone, what I wasn't expecting was for the Cold War parody to break down into an actual political examination, showing the hypocrisy of the stance of the United States during the historical period. It almost felt out of place, and yet never quite pushed too far. It felt like the game was dipping its toe into the political realm just enough to pique the player's interest so that they would become curious enough to do some research on their own. I don't know that I've ever seen a game do something like this. Sure, there's plenty of poorly written race allegories in gaming or war is bad narratives, but to have a game poke fun at and tear into history in such an obvious way was, for a lack of a better word, intriguing to me. All of this is baked into a video game about video games, with constant references to other popular titles that barely manages to keep the game's strange narrative dissonance in check. While the storytelling is unique and certainly won't be for everyone, it never gets in the way of the jumpin' and shootin' action, and because of that, I'd give it a solid recommendation to anyone who's a fan of the genre. Ooh boy, choosing related games in this case was incredibly easy. For another old school indie platformer, and a great one at that, I suggest the rightfully famous Shovel Knight. For the second recommendation, I'm gonna go with the obvious pick. Go get Mega Man Legacy Collection. So, that was my IndieSelectE3 Showcase. Can't believe I actually finished it. As a slight diversion to my main content, I found this to be a nice break, but I'm definitely ready to dive back into some RPGs. I want to once again thank Indie Gamer Chick for setting this up, and I want to thank all the developers for giving out codes to this game. Even for the ones I didn't like, I am still very appreciative that I was even given this opportunity. Keep doing what you're doing. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time on Stiles Reviews.